What's one thing you've never told your fans about your music career?
I actively think about not doing it anymore.
Today on the podcast, we have a really exciting guest. Everybody please welcome JamesTW.
Sometimes moms and dads fall out of love.
James is an unbelievable singer-songwriter whose music I've personally loved for years. You'll probably know him from songs like When You Love Someone, or even when he toured with Shawn Mendes. James has such a unique way of telling stories through music. Have you ever written a song that you regret putting out?
I was very young at the time when I put this song out. I really didn't know who I was as an artist.
In this podcast, we go so much deeper into what it takes to make an artist tick. What happens between the label and the artist in terms of contracts? What is the dark side of fame? And what is AI doing to the music industry? Before we start this podcast though, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, 5-star button, thumbs up button, whatever it is, wherever you are, it helps so much more than you know. And the more likes and subscribes and 5 stars we get, the more incredible guests we can get on the podcast. So I'd really appreciate it if you could do that right now. Thank you guys so much. Without further ado, this is the Into the Mind podcast. My name is Harrison Brown and let's welcome JamesTW. About sound treating rooms and podcasts and all the rest of it, but I kind of want to dig a bit more into like the background of you and where you came from versus where you are now and the kind of everything that happened in between. So like, how did you get into music? Because I read that you were 10 years old, which is nuts. So how did that happen?
So my dad was the main influence in my family for music. He used to be in bands when he was in school and played guitar and sort of wrote songs. So when I was 10, at that point, he was in a wedding band and he saw on the news that playing drums was good for stress with your job or whatever. So he got an electric drum kit and I just came home from school one day and it was just sat there in like the bedroom. So I just sat down and played it and I just naturally fell in love with playing the drums. That was kind of the first instrument that I took to and I was quite good at naturally. I'd tried violin before, but I was god awful at that. So this was the first time I'd had a nice experience with music, I think.
And why was it? When did the switch come to guitar?
That was not till a couple years later. I'd played drums for a couple of years, and then I'd even played in my dad's wedding band, like stepping in for the drummer a couple times. And then I just felt like, I want to be able to like play with my dad. Just sitting on the couch sort of thing. So he started to teach me chords and different songs that I loved.
Oh, that's pretty amazing. So that was kind of like the bonding between you and your father was through music, right?
Definitely. Yeah. I think that and sports has sort of remained the two sort of staples in our relationship, I think.
Right. Okay. And then, so you started playing guitar a couple of years after that. So drums was the initial love.
That was the I want to do music for a living. I don't know how or what exactly, but just playing in a band and like bringing people together and seeing people dance and have a good time, that was really infectious to me at that time.
And what did you think, like, where did the inspiration come from? Because I can imagine I'm just thinking back to my 10-year-old brain. I was probably like, worried about climbing a tree outside in the garden or like, so what was your inspiration when it came to music? Did you hear someone in particular and you thought this is what I want to be like?
I think my dad, like a lot of dads, he likes to watch live concerts. And I think growing up, I was always watching like AC/DC or Maroon 5 or Damien Rice, just sort of like a pretty wide spectrum of music. And I'm sure there's something subconscious about my dad admires these people. And I want my dad to admire me, so I think this is cool. But there was also just a natural love, I think, there as well. Kind of the combination was what really, really got me into it. And instead of climbing trees on a weekend, I would just sit down at the drums maybe for like 6 to 8 hours on the weekend and just play and to my favorite songs, basically.
See, that's interesting to me because there seems to be a common theme amongst. It could be anything. It could be musicians, it could be photographers and videographers, it could be YouTubers, where they have almost unhealthy obsession when they're young with the subject at hand. And I'm talking from experience here. When I was younger, I would I'd get up at 2 a.m, I'd go to Glencoe, I'd climb a hill for sunrise just to get one photo, and then I'd come back. So, it was very, it was unhealthy. It wasn't right. Looking back on it, it was kind of weird. Where do you think that almost compulsion came from?
That's a really good question. I don't think I've ever thought about it. I think I don't look at it as unhealthy now because there are worse things I could have been doing for 8 hours a day. Like I could have been just playing video games all the time, I suppose. And I did love playing video games too. But I don't know. I just felt like it was quite a healthy. Looking back, I'm glad that was the thing I was obsessed with. I'm not sure where it came from, though. I'm not sure.
Is there any kind of like, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, and the reason that I'm asking is because there is a side effects to this of kind of hyper focus. Is there any ADHD or anything like that?
Maybe undiagnosed. My wife always sort of points a finger at that, and she says, "I think that's likely." But I've never been diagnosed, so I can't really say. Yeah,
right. Never been. Okay, so yeah, because normally, or not normally, but a lot of people with ADHD, they're they're not great in school for obvious reasons, and it's because they don't care. But when they do find that thing, that one specific niche that they love, that's when it all kind of comes together, and they're all of a sudden they can hyper focus on that for hours and hours and hours, and they'll work harder than anyone else around them.
I totally have experienced that, not just in music, but in sports. So that was the only other thing sort of during school that I was really good at and I really enjoyed. And I kind of got really fixated on wanting to be fast because I played rugby mainly in school, and I just wanted to be faster than anyone else. So on the weekends, I'd also like go to the park and I'd like research all these exercises you can do to get faster. And I bought these rubber bands and whatever, like literally whilst all my friends were probably playing COD or something,
getting pet.
And yeah, and then I did become like the fastest guy on the team, and that's just an example of what you're talking about there, where it's like when you find the thing that you love, you can spend an infinite amount of time doing it. But if it's not, then it's really, you're right, it's really difficult to sort of care.
Yeah, it's difficult to care. It's difficult to concentrate, and to those around you. Typically, like I know for me in particular in school, it was like, well, he's not exactly the smartest cookie. He's a bit of an idiot. He's not going to go to university. He's not really going to make anything of himself. But I think that's possibly because schools pursue kind of typical industry stats. Like they want people to be doctors or lawyers, and it's very much kind of stat driven instead of into the creative niches. So like I followed photography, you followed music, but in school the percentage of people that are actually successful in those niches are so small that they don't want you to pursue it.
Yeah, I had a similar experience in school where if you wanted to play an instrument in school, they wanted you to do the grades so that they could say they had a certain amount of grade 8 students, that play piano or drums or whatever. And I'm guessing that's just so they can compare to other schools how good they are. And there's so many kids that even as I was leaving school, that I could see loved or was really interested in playing an instrument, but they were forced to learn things about that instrument they didn't care about or pieces they didn't want to learn. If they just could go in with, I guess at the time, their iPod and say, this is my favorite song, teach me how to play this, they probably would have carried on playing, but it had to be, metric. There had to be numbers involved.
Yeah, it's pursuing the I actually remember I got a job with Canon, so that the camera company. And I remember arriving on kind of set. They had like a big gazebo thing up in Glencoe, and they were filming, and they were asking me to do certain things, and I was like, I have no idea how to do that. Like, I'm not technical, but I just know what I'm good at, and I know what I like, and that's that. I never went to a school or I never went to college for this. I'm guessing this the same with you. That you had lessons, but were you kind of self-taught a lot of the time?
Yes, drums. I did get lessons. Like when I was 10, my dad saw that
Right.
I loved it, so he immediately was like, "Let's get you some lessons in town." But then with guitar, that was all very. My dad would teach me a few things, and then I would just be on YouTube. Pretty much YouTube, I'd say, for my sort of musicality in general around that time, that was my main teacher. I was learning more from that than I was from trying a guitar lesson in school or something like that.
Isn't that interesting? Like just thinking back to my little 16, 17-year-old brain as well. I was exactly the same as you in terms of I would just look up for me it was Peter McKinnon, so I'm not sure if you know photography, but he was the guy, but he was the guy back in the day. And I'd look up him and he'd do tutorials, but they were really fun because he was like a teacher, right? And he made it fun, he made it engaging, much more engaging than some of the teachers in school that clearly didn't want to be there. And all of a sudden you were learning things and you were way further ahead of of actually the teachers in some aspects, because they were sticking to the kind of criteria.
Right.
So,
I think in general it was getting better. I think the school realized the way to keep kids in extra activities like learning an instrument or playing a sport was for them to have fun. And when I was leaving school around 17, they had started these sort of like lunchtime rock band things where kids could show up if they played drums or guitar, and then they just sort of try and learn a song together that they liked. And I thought that was way better than the whole just, you have to learn classical music and do the grades.
Yeah, it's so much more engaging, and there's so much more genres of music out there than just the ones that they're teaching as well. How did you fall into your what would you name your specific genre?
I think it's sort of singer-songwriter or like acoustic pop is probably what I'd call it.
Right. And how did you fall into that?
I guess that was sort of trial and error. I signed a record deal when I was 17, and at that time I'd written a few songs that were definitely like Ed Sheeran influenced, very acoustic guitar, with pop structures. But then I also had a lot of influence from John Mayer as well, and he had more of sort of a band thing with the electric guitar and some slightly, more interesting chords and stuff. So at that, I was kind of failing to write Ed Sheeran songs, and it became my songs, and failing to write John Mayer songs, and they would also become my songs. And then I put an EP out when I signed, and it had 5 songs on it, and they were very different. Some were John Mayer-y, some were Ed Sheeran-y, some were maybe like more down the middle pop, like One Direction-y. And then it was just, on that EP was my song When You Love Someone, which happened to be more singer-songwriter and acoustic. And I think that one just sort of took off from the beginning, and I took that as a sign to pursue that as the main genre sort of thing. And I might return back to more electric guitar or whatever other things later down the line.
So 2 things there. One is, you were 17 when you released that.
I was 17 when we wrote it, but I think we released it maybe when I was 18, I think.
Holy shit. That's insane. So, wait, 2 seconds. What age are you right now?
I'm 27 now.
So you're exactly the same age as me. So I would have listened to that, because I was thinking of when I heard. So when I was in Iceland with James, he obviously played that song, and I was like, oh, I've definitely heard it before, but I can't remember when I heard it. So I must have been like 17 when I heard that song. That's insane.
Yeah, crazy, man. The fact it's nearly been 10 years is cool and spooky at the same time.
Yeah, it's oh, that's insane. That's blowing my mind. And how did that work? So you released these 5 kind of totally different categories of song. Was it always the more acoustic-y one that you preferred? Like, was that the niche that you always liked, or was it just music in general? You were like, if I can make it as a musician.
Yeah, I think I had different influences. I actually wanted to be in a band. Like, that's really what I wanted, but no one at my school was like as passionate as I was about sort of chasing that and wanting to work on that. So I did convince my friends to play in cover bands with me, and we'd play at parties and stuff like that. But, they went on to do different things. So I think, sorry, your question was to do with how I...
Yeah, 5 tracks. What was what do you think your favorite was?
I
like,
think
in terms of the niche.
Weirdly, my favorites were the ones that didn't do as well. and I think only now I'm getting the courage to go back and try and make that style again. And just think, it's not because I tried one song like that and it didn't do well, so therefore I should never make another song like that. But at the time, it was so high stakes being the first release on a label. You really want it to work immediately so that they keep you and that you prove yourself and whatever. So so the acoustic thing just happened to work first. But that's not to say I think the other thing can work, but I've just not been brave enough to try it again.
Isn't it incredible? Like, for people that are listening to this, I'm going to say 17 to 24 is such a key area for people, because it's when they can try things that are new, and it's when they can be risky, and it's when they're not kind of set in their ways. And I think so many people fall into the trap of, I did this YouTube video, it did really, really well, so from now on, that's the format I'm going to stick to, and I'm never going to change. And for a lot of people, that's what happens. But when you're young, when you're 17 to 24, that's when you can experiment. That's when you can do things that are different. Like you said, you release 5 different songs all at the same time, see which one stuck. And there's actually there's I can't remember a doctor talking to me about it on the podcast, but essentially your frontal lobe's not fully developed until you're 24, and that's why. And also your testosterone's way high as a guy, so that's why you take more risks when you're younger. So there's actually biological factors that allow you to take more risks when you're younger, but it's so important to do that when you're younger, so that when you're older you reap the rewards from that.
Yeah, I think it's tricky. I see lots of social media posts where I think the language now is it's never too late to take the risks. And obviously the older you get, the harder it is to take risks, especially if you have more sort of, rent or commitments that you can't just sort of wing like you can when you're a kid living with your parents. And I think looking back on that time, I'm really grateful that I found music that early, because firstly, putting in the hours didn't feel like putting in the hours. I mean, that should be consistent with anyone who loves what they do. But then when it becomes your job, the lines blur a lot more. There's still passion there. And now I feel like more than ever, I'm just trying to sort of reignite how I felt as a 10-year-old with music. But it's hard to do now, because you're right. You have success in a certain area, then you think, well, that's my thing. I should do that. But this is art, and you can't make a formula out of art and continue, and nor should you. But that's just a survival thing, an instinct, I think, where we want to continue to do well, and therefore we'll think about copying the thing that did well the first time. And it just doesn't work like that in music. Yeah,
it's also like the dopamine hit. It's like, well, this song got, hundreds of millions of streams, or this video got hundreds of millions of views, or social media post, so I'm going to do exactly the same thing and expect the same result. But you're right, in creative niches, you can't really do that. How do you, and this is an interesting conversation I had with James as well, how do you balance the fact that your job doesn't really have any concrete hours that you need to work? It's kind of like, it's up to you when you work and when you don't.
I think it's one of my favorite things to talk about with other self-employed people, because you only know what it's like when you've experienced it. And obviously to most people outside of being self-employed who are employed, they'll look at it like you're living on a holiday the whole time. And in some respects you are. You can choose your hours. You can choose when you come into the studio and write a song. You can choose when you're productive and shoot content or whatever it is. But I think as I'm getting older, I'm getting a bit lazier. And being lazy as a self-employed person is like actually really dangerous, because you can end up doing next to nothing. One thing I'm also struggling with, and actually for the last 2 years, my wife has been managing me. So we both are self-employed. We both work from home a lot. It's really difficult to be doing emails on the couch at home, work-wise. And then it gets to 6 o'clock and you go, oh, yeah, well, now we should relax on the couch and we should feel completely different to how we felt 30 minutes ago and all day. And it's become very difficult. That's why I've just moved into this studio that's away from my house, is in the attempt to separate the two things in my life.
So you're trying to separate the work life, really?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and do you work? I mean, listen. So I've been same boat as you, but I've been doing it since I was like 20, maybe like 20, in terms of just working, when I want to work. And it's tricky because you can procrastinate so easily. And I'm the same, man. Like, I'll turn on TikTok and an hour will go past and I'll be like, I've just consumed brain rot for the last hour. But I do think what really helped me especially is having concrete work hours. I'll work 9 to 5. If I don't get anything made and I don't film a video that I like, well, at least I tried.
Totally.
And a lot of the time what will happen is there'll be days that I film absolutely fucking nothing and I hate it, but there'll be days that it actually spills over into like 7, 8, 9 p.m. and I've filmed so much that I can backlog for, a week or two. So
Totally.
it's kind of, I think treating it like a 9 to 5, although it strictly isn't, and you can kind of take your own holidays and you can go out for lunch for 2 hours if you want to, I think that really helps.
That's exactly what I'm realizing right now. I mean, I actually share this studio with some other guys who like to work late. So I only have it till a certain time in the evening. So I know I have to get out by that point. And in a way, that's great because I go, okay, I've got these hours and, on these days where I can work in this studio. I just show up and now I'm trying to be a bit more free and be like, if I show up, I'm going to make something. I'm not going to sit here. I don't have my PlayStation in the corner or a VR headset or, I'm here to work and I'm renting the space. That's another thing about separating it is when it's your second bedroom, it's just a spare bedroom.
Yeah.
When you're renting, if you're paying for the space, it's like you want to get some worth, money's worth. So anyway, I'm finding the same thing. I'm trying to work sort of maybe 11 till 5 at the moment in the studio, Monday through Friday. And I'm coming in and just making anything. I'm trying to take down this idea that like I am an acoustic singer-songwriter. All I make is that. That's what people expect of me, and that's what I can do well. And now I'm trying to broaden it and just say I want to make something that I want to listen to all the way home. And that is kind of how I felt as a 12-year-old writing my very first songs,
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, I think that's the way to do it. It's out of your passion that you should create music. And listen, there's always going to be, I think in the music industry, there's always going to be the songs that, Ed Sheeran talks about this a lot. He's like, I know that there's certain songs I'll put out in this album that are going to be a hit. He says, but they're not really the ones I enjoy making. I enjoy making the more intricate, detailed ones about life or about, personal stories. What's the, how do you create music? Do you go in and just kind of vibe out until you find a chorus that you like? Or is it you write the song first and then you try and find the instruments after that? How do you do that?
I think for the majority of the last 10 years, I've realized that a big reason why people listen to my music is the lyrics. It's a lot to do with what I'm saying, the sentiment of what I'm saying. And for a song to be good lyrically, it really needs a good concept. So with the people I usually write with, like other songwriter friends, sometimes if we don't have a really good concept, an angle to come at something, we just don't get in because it's really hard to come in and force a brilliant concept. Yes, you can chat to each other and sometimes one will naturally fall out within the first hour of just catching up on life. But a lot of the time, one of us is bringing something in that we've been thinking about for a few days already. And in that thought, we've probably already come up with a lot of lyrics for the song, if that makes sense.
That seems quite personal.
Very personal, super personal.
So I'm guessing you're really close with the guys that you're writing with, because I don't want to name any specifics, but I was speaking to James and he was, writing about stuff that's deeply, deeply personal in his life that's gone on. And it is, you need to have complete trust with someone and be really good friends with them in order to, express that.
I think that is the most comfortable way of doing it, but
Chisholm Hunter are the sponsors of the Into the Mind podcast, and without Chisholm Hunter, we would not be sitting here today. They were founded in 1857 and specialize in luxury jewelry and luxury watches. So essentially, they've got over 165 years of experience in luxury jewelry and luxury watches, which is just absolutely insane. To top that off, they're also family run. They're official stockists of Tag Heuer, Omega, Tudor, Vacheron Constantin, and many, many more. And they're also world renowned for their luxury diamonds. If you were looking for a luxury watch for yourself or something for a loved one, then please head to chisholmhunter.co.uk. That's chisholmhunter.co.uk. And if you use the discount code CHSUB, that is CHSUB, on the Chisholm Hunter website on selected lines, you'll get 10% off your next purchase. That's CHSUB on the chisholmhunter.co.uk website for 10% off selected lines. A huge thank you to Chisholm Hunter for sponsoring the podcast and supporting us in this venture. And on that cheery note, let's dive back into this conversation with JamesTW.
In the very beginning, when any artist is sort of picked up by a label, they'll usually throw you in a lot of rooms with a lot of people that you've never met. And they might be, if you're young, they might be twice your age as well. Like they're not in the same chapter of life as you. And I just got better at being willing to share everything with everyone, for better or for worse. But I think looking back, it was for better, because if you're closed and you're trying to write a song, like how are you going to connect with if you connect with the person about what you're talking about, then maybe you can put that into a song. But if you're not even connecting with the person sat across from you about it, then how are you going to make something that connects with anyone else? So you really do have to learn to sort of be an open book. I think if you're going to do lots of songwriting with other people, that other people just like writing songs on their own, and obviously that's very personal, and you can be as personal as you want without feeling uncomfortable.
Do you think drugs have anything to do with that?
Drugs have to do with what?
People opening up personally to other artists, because especially when you're young, right? You're 17 years old and you're thrust into this level of fame, and I can presume that there's a lot of artists that struggle with the personal side, but drink or take drugs in order to suppress that.
I don't know. I think I remember being like 17, 18, and it was only a couple of times in LA that maybe the writers wanted to smoke weed or something. And I wouldn't do it, but that was their process. You know, that was the way that they felt. Maybe that's the way they felt comfortable with opening up and getting into the right headspace. But everyone's different, and I think I'm just naturally a sharer. So it came easier, I think, to me than maybe other people.
Yeah. And talk to me about, like, because that hit when you were 17, that was like, that was everywhere for 2 years. That was the top of the charts. That was, how did you deal with that level of kind of publicity and fame being thrust on you at such a young age?
I mean, that's the funny thing about that song is I don't think I really experienced any fame from it. And it, even though the numbers like now are big and, the hundreds of millions of streams, I think it's maybe hit 1 billion streams at this point across the different things, which is obviously amazing and a cool stat. But that has happened so gradually. The song did get into a lot of playlists off the bat on Spotify and on Apple and on those DSPs, and that was mainly due to I think the label's power back then that they had with those platforms. But the song became the famous thing, and I was nowhere near it. Like, in a way, people hear that song and they have no idea what I look like. They have no idea who I am. They might not even care, which is totally fine. I think in this way that we've started to listen to music for the last 10 years, we're way less involved with who the person who's making it. I have playlists full of songs that I love and I've listened to hundreds of times, and I've never once gone to their socials or something. It's just, it doesn't promote that the way that the process is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I suppose it does. Is that a positive or a negative? What do you take?
I think you could see it either way. And the positive is I had a big song and I didn't really experience a lot of fame from it, so I can walk down the street unbothered and still enjoy the success of the song. The negative is that I remember going into a HMV or a CD store and being so excited to pick up my band's newest album. And because I spent £10 on the album, I would go home and I'd get my money's worth. I would listen to every song on the album multiple times, and then I'd find ones that I'd liked, and eventually, you listen to 3 or 4 on the album. I don't think that is happening as much anymore because of what I just explained about the process that we listen to music. We're given every song in the world for a tenner a month, and therefore the value of the music just isn't worth as much anymore.
It's an interesting concept, actually, because I remember, oh God, I'm going way back now. I must have been, 10 years old, 11 years old. And I remember getting Queen, the soundtrack for, I think a ticket for my dad or something. It was a CD and I had a radio in my room. And I'd essentially do that. I'd say, I'd play all the songs from this track from Queen. And then I sifted through them so many times that even today, I still have memorized huge parts of them. Whereas nowadays, you're right, you're paying a tenner a month Spotify, you find one singular track from an album that you like instead of multiple. Do you think that is, I suppose, has devalued the word? Do you think that's devalued the music industry?
That's a huge question. I'm also aware that whilst I'm saying this, I've massively benefited off this new model that people listen to music on streaming services. That's been a huge pillar in my career, and I was just lucky that I came up during that time. But I think No, I think it's added value. Maybe for worse, but I think now that before if someone listened to a Queen album, they bought the album, and then you get the money from the album, and that's it. They paid that tenner. Whereas now, every play, the Queen are getting paid, the label are getting paid, and I imagine that's going to eventually be worth more money. And I'm not really too. I try not to follow like metrics on what the industry's doing. I obviously speak to the people I'm close to, but that's a very quantitative left brain side of me, and I'd prefer to stay in the creative side, and that's what I do best. So yeah, weird emotions about how you balance those two things.
Yeah, I'm the same. So I'm kind of the same in you in that retrospect, but I definitely lean to more the kind of left side of the brain, the kind of facts and figures, analyzing the stats, analyzing retention rates. Why do people drop off here? Why did that social media post go viral? All these kind of things. When you got signed at 17, like I see this common theme in the industry where people villainize the label for better or for worse. Some labels are amazing, other labels maybe aren't so good. But it seems like they capitalize on inexperience, especially when it comes to like young artists. I'm not saying your label did this at all, or the one that you were with before, but they seem to get people when they're very, very young, say, well, we're going to dazzle you with all this money, sign 60% of your revenue streams over to us for the next 20 years. And a lot of people do it. And like, how did it come about that you got signed to the label? And what was the kind of intricacies of that?
So I was kind of a YouTube covers kid, like a lot of kids 10 years ago. And I hadn't built a big following. I think I had like 10,000 subscribers, which was fine, but it wasn't anything close to the other sort of kids that I would see in these buildings who were also trying to get signed. I got quite lucky, and Shawn Mendes used to watch a lot of cover artists on YouTube, and he found my John Mayer covers that I was doing. He then showed his label, who wanted to meet with me, and I went, and I think it wasn't based off the covers I was doing. Once I got in the room and I played them the songs that I'd been writing on my own, they told me later that was the reason they signed me, because I could write songs and sing them and whatever. It wasn't just because I could play Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. And I think, therefore, when people ask me, what's the most important sort of skill to have, I mean, writing songs is, I still think, the most important skill. Everyone's got different projects and they'll be signed for different reasons. But if you can write songs, then you've got a very long career, I think, whether it's as an artist or a writer or producer or whatever it is.
Okay, and how did so if you were to write, and this is coming from a total point of, like, I've obviously never worked with a label, but if you were to write a song, would the label own that music for a certain amount of time, or do they own a percentage of that music, or how does that?
If it's a major deal, there are different. Sometimes they own it forever, and other times they own it for a decade or two, and then you might get it back, sort of thing. But again, that's down to the deal that you sign. And you asked about that too. I don't think I was taken advantage of. I think the truth is, yes, I was a kid, so I didn't really understand what deals were, and at the time it was a very different industry as well, where you really did need the power of the label to get somewhere. You couldn't win big like you can today, which we can talk about later. So looking back, whilst obviously that they put the risk up front, but and that's really what it's all about, is who's going to spend the money to make the music, and whoever does that usually gets the big share. And at that time, I needed a label. I needed to be put in the room with great songwriters so I could learn how to write better songs. I needed money to be able to go on tour and support people, and so I don't regret in any way taking that deal. It was for the time. It was fine. It was good. It worked out.
Yeah. It's good that it worked out. I mean, you hear so many horror. I mean, Taylor Swift is a perfect example of someone that had, famously a huge falling out with her label, and then she re-released all her songs in her own label, and there was all that kind of, it was just dirty. There's lots of stuff going on, but it's good that you had a kind of good relationship. And do you still have that relationship, or are you done with your label now? Are you?
No, we cut ties, maybe 4 years ago. And that's also a tough thing just in general, is it came out of nowhere sort of thing. It was tough during lockdown because during lockdown no one really knew how to create. No one knew how to write songs. Now you and I could write a song on here and we might be able to do a pretty good job. I don't know what you're like at writing songs.
Terrible.
But before 2020, no one was doing that. Like no one was writing songs like this because the vibe's different, and it took a long time to catch on. So I tried really hard to write an album during lockdown, and then I finished it basically as we were coming out of lockdown, and basically as soon as I was about to release it, the ties were just cut, and mixed emotions, because that was all I'd known was from 17 to sort of 24. Was being in that environment with these people, and I didn't really know what my career was going to do after that. And that's also the tough thing when you sign a deal, is it's kind of just like not up to you most of the time whether you can leave or not, or if you choose, it's that it. Well, how am I trying to say this? They're the ones who can choose to get rid of you if they want,
Yeah, no, that's tough. That's tough. And do you still own is the tracks that you released back when you were 17 to 20 that obviously went huge and super viral, and they're still performing well to this day? Do you own the rights to that, or is it your label that?
No, they own them. They own them, and I think they're going to own them forever as well. But again, I'm choosing to look back on that and go, I'm really grateful I got that chance to have that success, whether it was with a label or not. So I know that that's kind of, everyone's learning about this now, that, the artist doesn't usually get to own their music. And I think the artist should own the music. That's what I'm moving forward doing, is releasing to own it. But at that time, I had 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I was making covers in my bedroom. They really did. They put me on the map in some way, and I'm grateful for that. And that's what I'm choosing to sort of feel as I'm in this new chapter.
Yeah, for sure. And you can only control what you can control, right? And there's no point in looking back bad on something, because it just affects the way that, your outlook on life. It's a bit like, I'm doing a speech tomorrow for a Panerai opening event, and I was talking to my girlfriend, and she was saying, the nerves that you're feeling are exactly the same nerves as excitement. It's just that you're choosing to feel anxious rather than excited. So it's very much about your outlook on certain things. How you choose to view them is really, really important. And I think the fact that you're choosing to view that chapter as a really incredible chapter, it is a beautiful thing, because a lot of people would be like, oh, well, fuck this, I'm out, I hate this, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, I think it's not me sweeping it under a rug. It's me taking the things I learned from it and choosing to apply them now. But yeah, if I could look back in a crap way or a good way, I'm just the type of person who wants to try and be positive about my experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was it like working with Shawn Mendes or touring? What age were you then when you were touring with him?
That was pretty much the same time that I signed. Oh, maybe a year later or something. So maybe 18. I think it was 18.
And you were 18 in front of, because I'm going to do this speech tomorrow in front of, 40 people. How many people were you performing in front of?
I mean, Shawn was selling arenas, so it would have been 10 to 20,000, I guess, around Europe. But you know what's even more crazy is that Shawn at the time was 17. So I was 18 opening for him, and he was even younger, selling the tickets too. I was obviously just lucky I got picked to open. But the bigger the crowd, weirdly, the bigger the crowd in music, the less scary it is, because the intimacy is not there. When you're doing a speech, or if I'm playing a show and I'm in like a 50 capacity bar or whatever it is, that is far scarier than playing to like 20,000 people, because when it's 20,000, the first person's 5 meters away from where you are on the stage. But if it's 50 people, the person's like this, and you can see how they're reacting to everything you're doing. So yeah, I don't know. Do you agree with that?
Well, it's hard. I've never done any, humongous like talks, or I was invited to a couple of panels, but out of pure, anxiety. It's weird because people have this perception of me, at least, where they see me on a screen and they're like, he's super confident he can talk in front of a crowd. But talking to a camera or you right now, or even in person, it's a lot different than talking to a group of 100 people or 10,000 people. Like I kind of get what you mean though. There's like there's a disconnection. Like you can just be in your own head.
Mm. I also think if you're doing a speech, I've only had to do like one speech, and it was I went back to my school and basically spoke to a bunch of kids. Right. Tough crowd when it's kids because they don't really care. They've been dragged in. They're missing a lesson, so they feel cool, but whatever. But I was shaking like a leaf. Like it was terrifying. And there's that stat, I think, where it's the thing that people are most scared of is public speaking, and the second scariest thing to people is death. So people would literally rather die than public speak, which is
I can see that, but then it's experience. There was actually a really interesting study. Again, I think it was someone on the podcast that mentioned it, but they essentially they strapped heart monitors, like little bands, to actors that are going to go and perform on stage. I can't remember where they were performing. It was somewhere down in London, and coming out at the first gig or the first act, they all said they were really, really anxious. They're really, really nervous, and then when it got to the final day, they'd be performing for 30 days in a row. They said, they were really excited, but their heart rate was exactly the same as when they were anxious as when they were excited. So I think it's the perception flip. I think that when you do something enough, you can train your mind to be like, no, I've done this 100 times. I'm not anxious. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, every time I perform, I will get butterflies and I will not want to go on the stage. You're right. I've just got better at thinking this is positive. This is a good reaction, because I've also had it where I've not felt the butterflies before going on stage and I've performed way worse. Maybe because I'm rising to the occasion or whatever it might be internally. So I kind of welcome those nerves when they come now, and I have this sort of like pre-stage ritual, I guess, where I just sort of say to myself, I do like a prayer, and I kind of say to myself, like, I'm doing this for my 17-year-old self. Like, if he could see this, that would be awesome. I'm doing this for my family. I basically think about my loved ones, and they calm me down. Yeah. And I think about I think about the idea of doing it for them and my younger self, and then suddenly I'm like ready to go on stage.
Would you get more anxious with your wife in the crowd or not?
No, I'd feel comforted by that for sure. I think if my friends, like, because again, my wife manages me, so she's heard me sing a gazillion times in the house terribly. So, but if it was my friends who maybe I'm thinking they've got this perception that I'm like, whatever, and then I'd actually think I'd be more nervous, weirdly. What about you with speeches?
I think I'm the same. Like my if I'm recording a YouTube video and there's somebody else in the house or the flat, whether it's my it could be a family member, it could be my girlfriend, it could be my best pal, I can't film the YouTube video. I don't know why. It's as if there's like a mental block, because I feel like YouTube or social media is my own little project and nobody's watching. And it gets quite hard to say that when hundreds of thousands of people are viewing like videos or listening to podcasts, but I still feel like it's my own little thing. And I still feel like, it's it's my own little thing and nobody watches. So it's weird. There's a weird flip there that, like, I don't know. That sounds pretty stupid when I say it out loud, but
no, I completely connect with that. Completely. I sit in front of a screen, I play guitar and sing, and then there's a million people that are listening to it. Like, it's a very strange thing. And I would only expect people who talk to camera or make things on their own that get consumed by lots of people to understand that as well.
Did you, on the subject of it being consumed by lots of people, have you ever had, I know we kind of touched base briefly before the podcast on kind of the hate messages that were obviously some people are going to disagree with stuff that goes on the internet no matter what it is, and I kind of knew that as the podcast grew that would happen. But have you ever received any kind of hate from people?
I think I've been pretty lucky for the most part. I receive way more messages about how songs have helped people than anyone that's sort of choosing to be a troll on the internet. And that's another thing I think about with like fame in general is I don't want to be famous to like be recognized or for my ego, because I know that fame and ego like are closely linked. I think I only want to be more famous so that my music gets more famous, if that makes sense. Because I think obviously if people recognize a person or follow them on social media, they're more likely to listen to the music. And now I'm actually trying to find people online who, like on TikTok or whatever, where I'm like, I'm the guy that wrote this song that you listened to the last 10 years. And so many people are like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And they'll send lovely messages. But as those videos blow up, there's other people, there's more trolls come out of the sort of weeds.
Yeah.
And I've not experienced that really before. So it's just made me think getting more famous might be a negative for that reason too. You know, that more people are going to just be mean.
Yeah, it's pros and cons. And you need to have quite a thick skin to it. But typically, I mean, like a lot of the stuff on social media that you see, the comments, it's profiles that have been set up within the last 3 weeks, and you know, it's people that are just really sad and kind of miserable within themselves. So they feel like they have to take other people down because they feel shit. And it's sad because there's people out there that really have nothing, and their satisfaction comes from people that are putting themselves out there and doing something different. Their satisfaction comes from making them feel shit. It's like, it's weird.
I definitely remember in the YouTube cover days, you know, being a teenager and obviously greatly caring about what people thought about me, trying to make it. If there was like 20 nice comments about a cover I'd done and there was one negative one, that would eat away at me. Like it would be the only one I focused on, and I found it really hard to think about anything else if I read something like that. But then as you get older and I don't know, you feel more confident in yourself, or you see your worth, you know, being valued. There's also that quote, which is, if you wouldn't take advice from them, why do you take criticism? And I like that a lot. So I think as you get older, it gets easier because you learn how to manage it. But especially when you're a kid, and now so many kids are posting whatever on the internet for recognition. So pretty dangerous waters there.
Yeah, and then I think there's criticism, and then there's just being outright nasty. Like, see if someone comments in my video and is like, the sound's a little bit weird in this video. I'm like, okay, I'll fix that. But see if someone comes in the video and is like, by the way, your hairline, that's going. I'm like, no.
Yeah, man, people are mean. I the ones that happens a lot on TikTok is like, oh, you look like this guy. And then, of course, you'll Google the guy and be like, oh my gosh, does he look like Shrek? You know?
Yeah.
And that's always a bit weird. But you're right. Like, criticism, as long as it's like helpful, is obviously good. But you're right. There are people that just want to hate.
Yeah, I get Benedict Cumberbatch a lot. I get that.
Nice. Well, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, that's not a bad one. But then there was one that was like, you look like Benedict Cumberbatch with a bad hairline. And I was like, God damn it. It's like such a backhanded.
Yeah, that's horrible.
It's so horrible. Yeah, so so the social media side of things, you're trying to build that. And then you mentioned something interesting there. You said that fame and ego kind of go side by side. What did you mean by that?
I just think that Sean told me this, actually. He was sort of saying like this, he realized there's these things that are good for your soul, and there are things that are good for your ego. And sometimes it's really hard to figure out what's what, because they're both good feelings. But obviously one of them is a sort of a healthier, less toxic feeling. So that's all I meant by that is I'm aware that if someone comes up to me on the street and says like, oh, are you James? And, you know, I love your song or whatever. I'm going to get two positive experiences from that. My ego is going to feel good for the fact that I got recognized and just there's some tribal thing there going on where, you know, I'm the guy for a second.
Yeah.
And then there's the music meant a lot to you. And I've realized the longer that I've done this, that on my deathbed, the coolest thing about this and the thing I'm going to value the most is going to be the fact that the music helped people in certain times, not that 100 times in London someone came up to me and said hi. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you ever had any weird fan interactions?
I mean, there's been some fun ones. I mean, well, fun. I say fun. Some people have done, what's it called? Like fan fiction. Is that a thing? That's what it's called, right? Where they write a story about like you romantically. And I did not like reading that at all. That made me feel like really uncomfortable, to be honest. And then, but then most of them have been good. Again, like I'm pretty lucky. Like someone named their baby after me. That was
Holy
one.
shit.
Yeah. I don't know. My fans are really lovely, and I value them a lot.
Yeah. I feel like in Scotland it's actually really nice because people tend to respect others' space a lot more. And I don't know why. It seems to be like it's a Scottish thing. Like it seems to be like Lewis Capaldi is a perfect example. He was in the pub can't remember when he was, maybe 6 months ago he was in the pub. And we obviously saw him, but all the Scottish people know, like, just fucking leave him alone. It's just like he's having a pint with his mate. Just like leave him alone. Whereas I feel like if you were to be down south, like in London, or potentially abroad somewhere, he'd probably get hounded a lot more.
Definitely just a culture thing, isn't it?
I think so. His tour looks amazing at the moment. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I think he's playing London right now. I think he played last night, and he might be playing tonight. And I mean, I'm happy for him. Just awesome to see that.
It's so awesome to see him back, man. Especially as like I feel like there's a sentimental thing with me being Scottish and him also being Scottish that you've always got each other's backs. Like whatever happens, I'm still going to support him.
That's so lovely. Yeah, there's this song he's teasing at the moment with like a lot of falsetto in it, and I'm really excited for that to come out because I've just been like singing it around my flat quite a lot.
Is that like the "Till the Day I Die"?
There you go. You can sing.
Yeah, there we go. But is that the one?
Oh no, so that one looks. That's a different one, I think. This one's really high, and I'm not going to try and do it. But like, I feel like I haven't heard him do falsetto a lot, but this feels like it's built around that, and it's just really cool. I really like the sound of it.
Yeah, I think I think that his personality as well has really benefited him in terms of his music career because he's so fucking funny.
He is.
Like, he's hilarious. Like, I remember going to see him with my ex-girlfriend the day before or 2 days before lockdown hit, or like one of the lockdowns, and he was performing at the Hydro, and he was taking the piss out of what was happening in COVID, and it was so funny. And then all of a sudden we went into lockdown. I was like, oh, that aged terribly. But
yeah, that would have aged bad.
Yeah, but he was like, I think his personality really lends himself. It really helps him along the way when it comes to music because he has so much viral content.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of there are two weapons, I guess, in his arsenal. He probably said there's three, but yeah, like I just think he's a perfect example of how you can show who you are as and it be a strength. Because I think just growing up 10 years ago in the industry, I just felt like I had to be so clean and perfect. And the truth was, around my friends, I'd like swear quite a lot, and I still do. But I would never in a million years think about swearing on a camera because I didn't want to like alienate any potential fan. You know, I wanted 17-year-olds to like me because I was 17, but then I wanted 50-year-olds to like me as well, and I wanted them to be able to take their kids to the show because you know what I mean. So I just think, in a way, I shot myself in the foot a bit by trying to be too sensible, if that makes sense. And he's just a great example of not giving a shit and it being authentic, you know.
Yeah, and they're polar opposites. Like he's got the like fun, funny, totally inappropriate Lewis Capaldi, And then he's got this music that is so deep and personal and it makes people cry, and they're the polar opposite. But you're absolutely right. There's people are so afraid to offend others that they never find their own personality, like especially on a screen. And it's something that I know a lot of people that have gone down this track as well. Actually, when the podcast started, I remember people being like, you're quite robotic, like you don't give any opinions, and that upsets people that you don't give opinions. But then if you do give an opinion that they also don't like, then that upsets them. So you can't really please everyone.
No, I've been seeing that on socials too, where being controversial obviously gets attention. And I think I'm inherently just a huge people pleaser. So it's really hard for me to like think about being controversial in any way. And that links back to what I was saying about just for 10 years, I've just not wanted to offend anyone, I think.
Are you still close with Sean?
Yeah, I actually caught up with him. He just played in London and we got to catch up. And I really needed that. I really missed him, and it was nice to see him again. Yeah,
I'm guessing he's because again, it's this kind of weird separation between people when you're in the public sphere, kind of thinking they know you because they've heard your music or they've seen your videos, but it being very, very different in person. Now, is he different in person to what you see on the screen?
I don't know. I think he's similar. I think he shows a lot of love and compassion as a person on your phone or whatever you're watching him on, and he's just completely that in person. He's just definitely one of the most caring people I've ever met. So I think he does a great job of being authentic too.
Is there any funny stories that you have from tour of yourself or Sean that you're allowed to share? Don't incriminate anyone.
No, I don't want to incriminate anyone. I'm sure I have many. I'm kind of blurring them all together right now, but
you're like, nope, that's illegal. That's illegal.
No, just we played a lot of Mario Kart. We played a lot of table tennis. Like it was just a really, I think, unique experience to be two teenagers who would go on that stage, surrounded by a crew of adults, like people in their 30s or 40s. And it was just, I think we really bonded over that. And it was just a really special time in my life, that tour. Yeah, I'm sorry, I know there are funny stories, but like I'm scared to tell them, to be honest.
Yeah. I had a funny, actually I can't say, I'll tell you after. There's a funny one that James, other James told me from for anyone listening, James McVeigh. I'll tell you after, because this
is cruel. If you're going to keep this in the edit, that's pretty cruel to people who are listening. So I'm sorry to people listening.
Oh, you're all good. You're all good. What do you think is the dark side of fame?
Of fame? I think it's just giving into that ego thing we were talking about too much. I mean, letting that be the driving factor behind it, and listening to the people who want to hate. If you do those two things, I think your self-worth becomes about how many people recognize you and whatever. And if you listen to all the negative stuff, you might start to believe it, and then you'll sort of, spiral.
How do you separate yourself from that? Because I'm guessing there's a lot of people that look at social media stats and YouTube stats and album statistics and how many viewers and listeners they have, and they wrap their dopamine reward system around the number. So how do you separate yourself from that?
That's a really good question. I think I'm still learning myself how to do that, because whilst I'm very creative in music and in life in general, I just like, anything creative. There's the kid that played loads of sports and cared about running the 100 meters in a certain time. That's my quantitative brain. And that still, it's about competition, that side of the brain, really. That's what I kind of thrived in sports, was all about competition. So that is still very present now. And you're right, there's all these ways I can check how many streams a song got today, and then I can see exactly how many this other guy who just started or whatever got. And I don't know, if I'm in a bad headspace and I want to torture myself, I probably will just go and like look at other people's numbers and just compare. But obviously, that's just doing nothing for me. And I think just staying away from that, and the gratitude thing. I'm not great at it. I journal occasionally, but if I'm journaling, I'm sort of trying to recap on the fact that I've had all of this experience already. And there's a great TED talk about this this author, and she talks about writing the book after her like mammoth book, and she just admits to everyone that it's likely she will never have more success than she did with that book for the rest of her life. So what's the point in continuing? And in many ways, I kind of felt like that coming out the gate with a song that just sort of now has accumulated that many streams or been heard by that many people. There's like a very high likelihood that's nothing close to that is happening again. And I think admitting that instead of being in fear of it, and being grateful for the fact it happened anyway. You know, everyone's always like, oh, like, not to me, but just in general, oh, they were a one-hit wonder. And a one-hit wonder is like seen as a bad thing, but they had one hit.
Yeah.
There are so many people who had no hits, you know, and having one hit is far better than having none. So I'm going off on a real tangent here, but I think I'm just sort of saying that it's again looking back on something and feeling grateful it happened rather than scared it might not happen again.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. The percentage of people that try, whether it's music or it's acting or it's becoming a social media influencer, the percentage of people that actually succeed or even have one good movie or one good song is tiny. Like in the comparison of people, like when anyone is growing up, the first thing they want to be is probably an actor. And then after it's an actor, it's a musician. Like that's the two, pillars of society in terms of fame, and it's what a lot of people would like to do when they're older. So the amount of people that try these things and fail, the fact that there has been those successful songs, whether it's people say quote unquote that it's a one hit wonder or whatever, it's still incredible to have done that and to get there.
Yeah, I mean that's one way of looking at it. It's the way. If anyone speaks to me in the industry about so-and-so who, but they only did that one song, I'm like, they got that one song. Like, That's a huge achievement. And I just think, like, people don't view it like that. So maybe that's me trying to make myself feel better, too, about, the future or whatever. But I think now I'm just acknowledging that to myself feels good and going, okay, well, I'm just going to make music now for fun. Like, what have I got to lose? Maybe it happens again, maybe it doesn't. That's all I'll say about that. I think I've been off a big tangent. Sorry.
No, but listen, it makes sense. Like, but you've had a lot more songs than just. Listen, I know that a billion streams is pretty hard to compete with, but you've had tons of songs that aren't just when you love someone, that have all done extremely, extremely well. So comparing it to that one song that had, I don't know how many streams, a billion, you said.
Something like that, yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, like that's... Yeah, like even if you were to hit 100 or 200 million, that's insane. It's incredible.
The other thing that I just think we all get too deep into all of these stats is, like, most songs in pop, I guess, are usually written in like a day or hours or even less than an hour. Like When You Love Someone was one day, and we went in, we wrote the song, and I didn't think that I'd then end up talking about the thing that came from that day forever, Like it was like, and yes, there are 100 days where you go and you don't write something very good, and technically you could add all those days together to make the one day, but it was just a few hours where we got really lucky and we had fun in the session, and that's it. So even that on its own, it's not that deep, It's not like, but this one has 2 gazillion and that one, on Friday did whatever. Like,
yeah,
I just think it would actually be way better if all the stats on Spotify or any DSP that shows stats, I think they should remove them. I think all of the stats should be removed. I think you should just be able to search the artist, see the song that you want to listen to, and listen to it. But I don't know how much the public are really following the stats. I think that must happen a lot more for artists or creators.
Well, that's the thing, and being in a creative and like the same thing happens to me. I'll look at YouTube stats, but realistically, if someone's clicking on the video, they're not focused on the views.
No.
They're focused on watching the video. You know what I mean? So it's like it's very much a in-industry thing where you think that, like, same happens with Instagram. They removed likes. You can like hide likes, and I was like, that's incredible because it takes the pressure off anyone posting. But realistically, nobody really cares how many people liked something anyway, apart from you. Like, you're the one that's looking at your own post saying it's only got 1,000 likes comparatively to 10,000 last time. But nobody else is looking on your likes to see how many people have liked it. It's a very
This is a weird sort of question for you, but, in your experience of making videos, obviously we're all trying to make something that we love. That's kind of the most important thing. But then also that will connect and people will enjoy. Have you made stuff where you didn't actually love it, but you felt like it would do really well, so you tried it anyway? And what was your experience and what was the feedback of the video?
Great question. Yes, I have. There's things that trend. So I'm in the luxury watch industry for YouTube, but then I have a couple of other brackets of things that I do. But I think trends, they fucking drain my soul, man. Like, I understand that they'll do well, but I hate making them because it's something that everyone else has made. Trends are the least creative things that you can hop on as an artist in any area. And there's a lot of social media presences out there that all they do is hop on trends. So actually, when you strip the trend away, they've not got anything underneath it, So I have, especially in the early days of building my own following on my HP Lifelines profile, my kind of personal one. I knew that if I jumped on trends, I would get seen more, and in being seen more, then I would get more jobs. And to be fair, it got me a job with Canon, it got me a job with DJI. Like, I worked with all the big companies, but it's something that I don't need to do anymore. And if I make a video now, it's very much over what I'm feeling and what I want to portray. And in fact, there's 4 videos in particular that I've made that I've never released to the public, and they mean the most to me because they're videos of like my family when we were young, and I've taken all the cassette tapes of all my family when I was young and I've like stitched them together and gave them to my mum for Mother's Day, and like we were both crying. It was like really nice, but that's something that probably is the most satisfying to me, but I know that nobody is ever going to see. So I think you had that thing about ego and the soul. Yeah, that was more feeding my soul rather than my ego, whereas the trends feed my ego because holy shit, it's got 10 million views, but it drains my soul.
Right. Yeah, no, that I kind of would have expected that to be the answer. But that's the tricky thing with doing creative stuff is at the end of the day, the rest of the world's going to compare it. And feeding the soul is lovely, but you need to feed your mouth as well. Yeah. And sometimes that comes from the other thing. So it's all sort of a balance, isn't it?
It is. It's a balancing act, and it's a means to an end. But that's the key thing about we were discussing when you're like 17 to 24. There's no means. There's just the ends. Like you don't need to provide money for your family and eat because your mum and dad have got that covered. So you can inherently take a lot more risks and be more creative and do something different. And I mean, I don't, especially for me, that period was when I never went to college or did anything like that. So I could take risks, do videography. People thought it was really embarrassing at the time, but I learned through my mistakes and I took tons of risks in different areas and then figured out what worked. How do you like? You mentioned there the kind of like you need the means to the ends, right? So how do you get over the creative block? Like if you go into the studio and you're like, I need money kind of soon, I need to write a hit, but you have creative block. How do you get over that?
Gosh, I don't think anything good is going to come from wanting it for the wrong reason. Really, that if you go into a session and someone's like, oh, let's write a hit today, then I'm like a bit superstitious and I'm like, you've just ruined every chance of us writing a hit today because you just want the hit or
Yeah.
whatever, like they want to call it, smash or whatever. I think if you're making music for the right reason, because you want to say something or you want to express yourself or get something off your chest, it's always going to be more authentic and beautiful as a result. So I think now, though, if I was like, oh my gosh, like rent is due next week and I need to, I'd probably just go and play in a pub. I used to do that. Like, really? Like, I would just go to like whatever local pub and I'd say, can I pay for 150 quid? If I play for a few hours, I just play covers. I'll have fun. Like, again, that's what I did to make the money to record my first EP before I was signed or anything like that. So, and in a way, it'd be like a trip down memory lane. So, I don't know. It's what would you do?
Creative block. I mean, I found the exercise is pretty good for me specifically. Like specifically intense cardio typed exercise. I think weight training is good, but I think that like see if I really go and fucking run for like 10k and I'm drenched when I'm back and I'm dead when I'm back, all of a sudden all the pressures that seemed like huge deals like dissipate. And I feel so much better about myself. I found that, listen, it's different with everyone, but I think the exercise is quite key.
That's so funny. Like, my response was like, I go and beg on the street for like 50 quid. And you're like, I go for a run and then I'd probably make something pretty good. Okay, I'm going to change my answer then because I thought it was like a desperate, dire situation. If I'm just not inspired, if I come into the studio, I think the money thing was what threw me off. Then I need to get inspired. So I would get inspired by watching a movie or a series or speaking to a friend or just doing some real life stuff instead of just locking myself in the lab, you know. If I got nothing to say, it's because nothing's really been going on, probably because I haven't been living much. So yeah, that's probably what I do after begging for 50 quid on the street.
After the pub.
After the pub, yeah. That's such a. What would you do if you were creatively blocked? I'd go to the pub. I would definitely go to the pub. That's also another option. Yeah.
I think you're right, and I think that like artists. I remember watching the what was it? The Amy Winehouse documentary. And I remember there's a really famous quote. It wasn't, just in the movie or the documentary that she said it. She actually said it in an interview. She was like, I write about real things. And if real things aren't happening, then I won't write. And I think that's in part why her music was so incredible, because she had this, I'm trying to pick the right words here, but she had this kind of tortured life. Like she kind of had, extreme heartache, falling in and out of love. She had withdrawals from alcohol, she was an alcoholic, she withdrawals from drug, and that's in part why people connect so well with her music, because she wrote about things, real things. She was an extremely talented artist to start with, but the things she wrote about and talked about really touched people.
Totally. I think there's this thing that happens as well in music where like labels would always say it's like the worst thing is when you like end up in a relationship and you're happy.
Yeah.
Because then obviously you run out of breakup songs to write or whatever it is. So pretty early on though, I've kind of realized that I can be just as inspired just as inspired to write about someone else's situation if it's touched me. Hearing about it. And When You Love Someone's a good example. That song's not about me. That was about a kid that I was teaching drums to. And I've continued to do that, where it could be a movie or it could be just a friend who's going through a tough time. And if I really feel for them and sort of, sympathize or empathize, then I will write a song about it regardless, because I connect.
So it comes out of empathy.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. I thought for 8 years of my life that song was about you.
Oh, so does everyone else who's heard that song. And yeah, people always think my parents are divorced, and they're not. They're like happily married, and it's a bit of a weird thing actually to sort of like to hit all these people come to you thinking that you know how they feel. And obviously we wrote the song, like I've imagined what it's like to feel that, and but I don't know truly how it feels.
Well, once I think I can't remember how I found out about it. It wasn't about you, but once I knew that, I was like, No, it makes sense. So yeah, it makes sense. But it's funny what you take from something that you watch or listen to is always going to be different than what somebody else takes from it because of the experiences you've had in previous life. So like if you have parents that are divorced, lyrics that could be interpreted as different things, you'll put that label on it because you've gone through it. And I think that's why, in a way, music especially is so personal, like really deeply personal to people, because they project what like their own experiences on your music. And that's when you get an amazing artist, that's what they allow you to do. The lyrics can be interpreted in your way so that you can connect with them.
Totally. I think that's actually been a weakness of mine as an artist, is I'm usually very specific about whatever it is I'm writing about, and lyrically will be very specific. Therefore, it doesn't lend itself to like a whole lot of other experiences. But recently, that did happen, where I'd written this song called "Edge of the World," which I put out not too long ago, and it was actually just like a romantic song. It was me not trying to be so literal, which I am in lyrics a lot of the time, and it was just about my wife and I going to the edge of the world and just like, you know, putting our feet off the edge and whatever, like having our time. And then my granddad passed away like 2 weeks after, and my mum was, you know, my granddad was a big fan of my music, and he literally wore my merch in his like care home, and he would try and sell CDs to everyone when he was a car salesman. And so my mum was like, we have to have like one of your songs at the ceremony, and Edge of the World just ended up being the most perfect song, because it basically was just like, meet me by the edge of the world and we'll hang out. And now I can't hear that song romantically. Like I can only hear it and think of my granddad. So and I was really trying in that song to be more vague. I mean, vague's not a good word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Broad. So I saw the power myself in trying to write that way.
Oh, well, that's amazing, man. That's a super. Well, firstly, I'm obviously sorry to hear about him passing away, but that's like that's an incredible thing. Like it really is. The fact that you can put that on that song and you can carry that song with you for the rest of time now, and you will be reminded of him.
Yeah,
that's incredible, right?
Really cool. I know you're a watch guy, so he also left me a watch, which is really cool. Well, he had a really nice watch, but we had to sell that one to pay for his care. But then he gave me this really cheap one here, which is really cute. It's an Accurist. I think it's from the 60s. And
that's nice. It looks like an Amiga DeVille.
Yeah, it does. And he had one of those Constellation, like these old completely gold Constellations that he held on to like right to the very end. But I've only become a watch. I'm not a watch guy. James is a watch guy.
James is a watch guy,
and James will try and convince anyone else to become a watch guy. So he's educating me, but I'm not very good at spending money on anything. Like I was literally telling my wife this morning, like, I've realized I enjoy saving money more than I enjoy spending it. And I actually am kind of sad at that thought, because anyone who collects anything, I'm like, I look at someone like that and I go, oh, you belong to a community. And I really want to, maybe it's like being an artist is you kind of, you're very on your own. So this idea of like collecting something and being able to, you know, connect with other people over it, I've wanted that my whole life. And obviously, he's shown me what that's like in watches, so I'm a bit jealous. Yeah.
No, honestly, man, and I'm gonna, now that I've got your number, I'm gonna hound you over getting into watches.
Great. Yeah.
But the thing about that is like a little bit like the song that you wrote and you know, listened to at your grandpa's funeral, and it worked perfectly. You can't really put a value on that, right? Because it means so much to you. It's the same with watches. Like I've got watches that my dad has given me, or you know, that I've bought for special occasions that link to a specific moment in time.
Yeah.
And they're priceless because I'm never going to sell them, and they mean so much to me personally. And that's what watches are. You know, in a weird way, they're kind of similar to music in that way, in that they're kind of nostalgic. Like you can remember a specific moment in time when you look at a timepiece, And it's the same with music. You can hear a song and be like, "Oh my god, I remember I was 17 and kissed that girl for the first time. That was amazing."
Right.
You know that, and that's the so watches are the same in essence. And I think it's an incredible thing. Like, I did a video yesterday actually, and I essentially got the watch guys to send me their collections and why they had certain watches in their collections. And a lot of it was, I got this when my dad passed away and I've worn it every day since. Or I bought this for my son's graduation and I gave it to him. Or this was my mum's watch, and then we handed it to someone. It's all extremely personal stories. And yeah, in a way it works the same way as music, because it is that nostalgia. Like, you look at it and you think
It's
of
that snapshot, right? It's that snapshot of that time in your life, that moment. I saw a sort of post recently that said, if you're going to go on holiday, find a new album that you love and just listen to it like crazy on that holiday, because then it will be captured, anytime you listen to it. And you're right, it does sound similar. I didn't even realize, to be honest, with watches that people got them to like remember a moment. I guess, and I'm sure most people view it like that. Like, people just think that you get them because they look nice or they're fancy or whatever, or you want to make money on them or something. But yeah, when James explained that to me, that oh well, no, this one's for this time that I did this and this, then I was like, oh, you never make money on them because you can never sell them because they
that's
mean so
exactly
much
it.
to you. Yeah. So I was like, you're tricking me.
But also, it's like, well, this is the common one is a Rolex Submariner. This is a Rolex Submariner. It's worth, £9,000, and it's like, well, it's not worth £9,000 because you're never going to sell it. So it might be an asset that you can get insured on, but it's never something that you would ever sell, because how could you sell your dad's watch, or how could you sell this special occasion? It's like selling a piece of your soul.
I know, and then I think, well, what if I have kids and they don't even like watches? Then, like, and what was this all for? Anyway, so we can talk about that separate. I feel like I'm not well versed to talk about it yet.
Do you have, on the final note on the watches, do you have one specific watch that now that you're looking, you're kind of starting to scan? Do you have something that you like in particular?
Yeah, I think the one I really want is a Speedy. I think I love the look of the Speedy. I really want the chronograph, like a chronograph sort of thing. And I like the history of it. And there's part of me that goes, okay, then that's the one. And also, it's not crazy expensive, but it's not really cheap. And I think that does matter to me a little bit about the way I think I'll fit. Like, I know that's, again, back to ego. Like, I don't want to get a watch for the wrong reason. I want to be able to get a watch and no one see it, and I still enjoy having it, because I think that's kind of the test of the ego with the watch, right? So I really like the Speedy, but I've got a really small wrist, and I'm pretty sure they're like 40mm watches, the Speedies. So I don't think, I've been thinking about it so much, I need to just go into a store and I'll put it on, and it will look like I've got, like a ridiculously sized watch on my wrist. So I think I need a tiny thing.
You'd be surprised, man. Honestly, you'd be surprised. Because I've got a Speedy, and my wrists are pretty small as well, like 6.5 inches, and it does actually work quite well. But because this is getting nerdy, but mechanical in terms of manual wound and automatic are slightly different in that one has a rotor that spins around in the back. So most Speedies are manual, and because they don't have that rotor spinning around in the back, they can be thinner. And because they're thinner, they sit closer to the wrist, and they essentially look a little bit nicer. That's getting totally nerdy. But yeah, if you are looking for one, man, come. This is a total sale here. The podcast is sponsored by Chisholm Hunter, so it's definitely a good time to say it. But come into Chisholm Hunter, and we'll sit down with you and go through, what fits, what you like, and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
And back to music. So there is a question that I was going to ask you. So before this, we were talking about AI, and I actually messaged you being like, well, AI will clean up the audio. What are your thoughts on AI-generated music?
I think that it's freaking a lot of people out. That's true.
That's very... You've spoken like a politician.
I know. It's because I don't know. I think in a way it helps. I'm not saying like AI artists. I'm saying I tried like maybe 2 years ago when AI first came out, and I put in a prompt like, give me 10 ideas for a breakup song, like a title, just out of interest to see if there was any stock in it. And I got nothing. And then I maybe asked like 5 different prompts, maybe, and at this point might have been like 50 titles. And one of them I was like, oh, I guess I could write a song about that. And I suppose it's not miles away from what happens when you chat to people, when you do a normal songwriting session with my friends or whatever, and we sit down and, we're talking, and then we go, we could write a song about that.
Yeah.
That is the same, I guess is a prompt in a conversation, but it does take away such a human connection feel thing. And that's what's scary, is that it's going to suck away all of the sort of meat of the bone. And I don't know how I feel about it. I haven't yet used anything I've never made anything that's come from a prompt from AI, or anything musical that's come from AI. So I'm yet to I guess benefit from it, but I also am pretty skeptical about using it.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit, I hate to bring it back to watches, but when it comes to watchmaking, it's almost like the man-made imperfections make something perfect. Because it's always about the story, right? It's always about, Amy Winehouse, for example, it's a really sad story, but that's why her music was so poignant. Whereas I feel like AI doesn't have that. It's almost like it's too polished. I actually remember we had a guest on the podcast quite recently, and the audio was really quite bad. It was really fuzzy, like there was humming, all the stuff that you don't want in an audio. So we uploaded it to AI and we cleaned it up. And I remember my editor, Caroline, who's incredible, by the way, she turned around and she was like, "This has no soul." She said, "There's nothing. This audio now, it doesn't feel right. It feels fake because it's too perfect." So it's almost like the man-made imperfections in music or in photography or in whatever it might be, that's what makes things perfect to specific people.
We were out for dinner, my wife and I, last night with some friends, and we were having a similar conversation about how we'd both met and how we ended up dating and the bumps sort of in the early stages, which would be like cringy or funny or whatever it was. And we were saying, like, if it was just perfect and I found my wife on an app and I reached out and I said the perfect thing and she said the perfect thing and everything was clean, like, it wouldn't be as great. Like, it is the bumps and the creases that you remember, and that's very human. So you're right. If everything is just polished, then it's going to lack soul and we're going to connect less. And I think that's just going to force creatives to have to be more real, even more than they were being before AI, to stand out, maybe.
Well, you're actually seeing this now in the social media sphere. Like, if I were to post a video and it was to be professionally filmed videography with, cool cuts and a gimbal to hold the camera and slow-mo shots and macro shots, it actually statistically does worse than if I were to do an intro on my phone, then show what I was doing. Because people connect to the human aspect, and AI is kind of stripping the human aspect away. I actually liken it to, I did a lot of travel when I was younger. Went to like Colombia and Peru and, Thailand and Indonesia, all those kind of places. And the things that I remember are the things that went wrong. It's the right. times that we arrived at the Airbnb and there was a fucking cockroach on the ground, or the time that we were in Australia and we found a huntsman spider that freaked everyone out, or the time that somebody got so drunk that they did this. And that's real. And I feel like AI will never have that because it believes that that's not right.
I don't know, man. I obviously it's just come on so much, and I'm not just talking about music, but in general, in the last even year and a half, I think it could maybe eventually learn that we want imperfection, slight, to make it more human. And I don't know, I wouldn't put it past it in a couple of years' time to make things feel more real. So we'll see where we end up with it. I do think it's dangerous for the industry. I mean, for every industry though, but it's that saying that people are like, I want AI to do my dishes and washing so that I can make music. I don't want AI to make music so I can do my dishes and the washing, you know. And at the moment, it is scaring a lot of creatives that it might take their jobs, and obviously we'll see. But I think there's a lot of chat about it at the moment in the industry, and people trying to put laws in place so that it can't be really destructive.
They just did that on YouTube, actually. They, thank God for it, by the way. They released essentially I don't know what they use specifically, but it's some kind of software that scans videos and figures out if it's AI. And if it's AI, it punishes it or takes it down. And I think
Interesting.
That's so good, man, because like, especially for the podcast space, people that do podcasts, I mean, Joe Rogan is subject to this all the time. People AI his podcast because there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of stuff to work with that it's so believable. And then they make it so that he says something that sells a product that he never...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like, you mean when people like take parts of like Obama's speeches and he
Yes.
sings like Barbie Girl or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. It's like
Okay.
they're taking him, but they're AIing it so that it sounds more real. And people fall for it. You know, it's Joe Rogan going, well, I bought this Amiga Speedmaster. Obviously, that's an example just because we're talking about watches, but I bought this Amiga Speedmaster. It's the best watch in the world. You need to buy one. And then all of a sudden goes, oh, people he bought, I'll go and have it. But it's fake. And he said, like, there's podcasts of him speaking about it. And he's like, it's like cutting off, a head of the snake and 6 grow back. I can't keep up with it. You can't,
my gosh.
Yeah. And you can't get a lawyer involved because these AI generated content, like, nobody owns it because it's AI, and then they're all created in India somewhere. So he's like, there's nobody to sue. It's a real problem, man.
Wow. Yeah, I can see it all getting out of hand, and I can see people making lots and lots of money for doing nothing as well, which is a weird sort of reward. But anyway, I think where it's at right now is a really, really important time.
Yeah,
we need to take action before it sort of gets out of control.
Yeah, absolutely. I've really got to pee. So what we'll do is, do you need to pee as well, or is it just me?
I'm peeless, but you can pee.
I saw you just squeezing a bit there. You were like, no.
Yeah. Let out a fart. No.
But what we'll do is we've got actually a bunch of questions that I asked the Into the Mind podcast people on Instagram and TikTok and all that.
Cool.
To ask you. So we've got a couple of questions like that to go through. But what we'll do is I will stop this. Right. Okay. So a couple of questions that the team online had on the Into the Mind page for you. So firstly, we've got, okay. What are the intricacies with copyrights when it comes to music?
Gosh, you should ask my lawyer, not me. But essentially, if you're talking about like royalties and how you get paid from music, there's kind of two main ways. That's publishing. So
right,
what the chords and the lyrics and what's written, that generates a royalty when a song is bought or played. And there's the recording. That's a separate thing. Like the actual MP3, it itself will generate royalties as well. So if you covered someone else's song, then you could get a royalty for the recording, but not for the publishing because you didn't write it. And obviously, if you wrote your own and performed it, you'll get both.
Okay. What happens if if your label, if eventually you have a 10-year contract with your label and then you get your music back from the label, does it just mean that essentially however much the cut they were taking all goes to you now?
Yeah, I imagine so. Unless the only thing is a lot of the time, you're trying to give back the money that you borrowed from the label. So there might be something if you're unrecouped in that situation, you might need to finish paying them back before you get yours. But I mean, if it's been 10 years or something, you might be recouped anyway, in which case, yes, you would just get their share as well, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. And how much, like, this isn't even a question, but like, is there different deals for different artists in terms of how much they get paid from the label? Like,
oh yeah,
yeah. So is there like, say someone's a really young prospect and they think that, listen, they're going to be the next Justin Bieber, would they be like, right, we've got a couple of million we're going to give them? Or does it go that far?
Yeah, it definitely it's the Wild West right now in the industry with TikTok and social media. So now there are kids that well, not kids, whatever. There's anyone who can have their song blow up on TikTok, which means they're getting a lot of streams and they own 100% at that point of the song because they just put it out independent. And then labels will flock around them to try and buy some of the percentage of that, income. So yeah, I've heard, I mean, these are rumors, but I've heard definitely like multi-million-dollar deals for half of the royalty of one song that is going bananas.
Wow.
Like, yeah, and that was not happening 10 years ago. So in that respect, I hope that motivates independent artists that can happen to anyone nowadays.
Wow. Okay, so next up we have, what advice would you give to young musicians?
I'm gonna say, if it's like an artist, someone who wants to be an artist, write songs. That would probably be actually my number one tip, is start writing songs, and don't be too precious about the first songs you write, because you'll write 5 and you'll think you've got an album there because you need whatever, 5 for an EP. But your 50th song, I guarantee you, is going to be better than any of those 5. You've just got to write 300 songs really quick. And I found that when I started, that suddenly, after a certain period of time, every song I wrote, the label liked, and before they didn't. So it clearly was just like a level up. The other thing I'd say in today's world is, if you want to be an artist, you have to be online. Like, it's almost impossible not to be posting your stuff. And you can post what you want. You can post covers, you can post originals, you can post content, but just be mindful of the fact that if stuff starts taking off and it's not truly who you are, and people expect that from you instead, it's going to be really difficult to then convince them to love the thing that you're actually trying to promote.
Do you think you almost, like, we have this in the photography and YouTube space, and I wonder if it's the same as the music industry, you kind of build your own prison because of the niche you go into?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I'm mentioning. Exactly that.
Yeah. So is that why people have, I'm guessing, different aliases?
What do you mean?
So people have different aliases. So like Eric Prydz has Ceres. This is a DJ, but Eric Prydz, the DJ, has Ceres D as an alias. It's still him, but he releases a different type of music.
Yeah, I think that would also probably be not to confuse like the algorithm of his project, because the reason we also go for niches is then the algorithm better understands who you're trying to who you want to hear your music, who would like your music, and then if you suddenly throw something that's completely not relevant to that in there, it's going to mess up with that. So I imagine that's why people have, I have a piano project that has like no streams, but it's just me playing piano pieces I wrote, and I'm not releasing that because there's no vocal on it. It's nothing like the stuff I usually release. I just made a different thing and I want it to be separate.
Okay. Do you still release on YouTube?
I still do. Yeah, I've not put a good amount of effort in, but like obviously if a song comes out, something will go out with the song. Whether it's rarely a music video, it might be a lyric video or just the audio sort of thing, which I know won't perform as well. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't do covers anymore, if that's what you mean.
Because would you get the royalties to like see if you were to put out a single that you were having on YouTube, you would get the AdWords for that. Like, you would get the ad set for that.
Yes. It gets collected by the people I distribute through, and there are different models with that where a company could take a percentage. The one I go through doesn't. You just pay a subscription, so they can send it to the right people, but they'll collect the royalties, and YouTube will be included in that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. What has been your darkest moment?
I'm presuming this is in my career, and I would probably I'd probably say when when I let the numbers get to me too much. I think certainly, supporting Sean for like 2 years, and he was like, one of my best friends, during that time, and I still consider him a brilliant friend. But seeing the trajectory of just another career, like it's not even personal, to doing just that, and thinking that, well, that's just how it goes because I'm on the same whatever. I really let that get to me to the point where it made me really upset that I just couldn't follow the same path or something like that. So at that point, I really made a big effort to change the way I thought about my career versus anyone else's. It's independent of anyone else's. It's going to have its own waves. But until I figured out that I needed to change the way I thought about that, I was really struggling with the idea of my career. Yeah.
Right, next question. What's one thing you've never told your fans about your music career? Did you shit yourself on stage or something?
Oh. Maybe this is probably going to be sad for them to know, but that like I actively think about not doing it anymore, like quite regularly.
Really?
Just I don't know. I think that's why I'm trying at the moment to be really free creatively and just make anything. Because I think I became like very sort of one-track mind about what people expect from me, what I should be doing. But then I feel I felt more and more uninspired doing that. So sure, in like certain moments I go, oh, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like I don't want to, probably because I'm scared about trying something new or whatever it might be. But yeah, I guess they probably have not thought that I've thought about giving it up. Like, but I have.
Well, I think that would, for one, be extremely sad if you do give it up. I don't think you should. Yeah, I 100% don't think you should. Like, I think there's that old quote that like, "It's comparison's the thief of joy." And when you compare yourself with others, you're stripping all the good from what you yourself are doing. So I don't think you should quit. So what was it? Just because you felt that kind of uninspired, I suppose?
Yeah, I think you start to think about how you felt in the beginning and how much you loved it, and then you just ask yourself, oh, like, why don't I love it as much as that? Is it because it became a job in some ways, or is it because I'm just not being true to myself in what I want to create? Am I feeling like I need to do a certain thing? Like many things, I guess. And I think anyone who kind of has a passion that turns into a career will eventually fall into this sort of ground of, wait, do I still love it as much? And how do I get that back if it's been lost a little bit?
Yeah. It's interesting that just when you're talking about it, like I'd say a similar thing happens to a lot of people, especially when they get into something so young and it's consumed them for so long. Like, I think part of the incredible things about the start of career is, one, you're taking loads of risks. Two, everything's totally new to you, so it's really exciting. And three, there's so much to learn. So there's so much dopamine going on in every single aspect of it. But then you take away one, you've learned it all. You take away two, you've got to the goal that you wanted to get to in the first place, and you take away all of them, and then what are you left with? But
right,
yeah, I get what you mean. I think that, but it's just, I think for me at least, it's kind of like remembering why I got into it in the first place in terms of, and I know it's hard to feel that, but it's the excitement of, for me, it would be, taking a photo and editing it and printing it and putting it on the wall. And again, it's diversifying what you're doing. So I would start doing passion projects that I know weren't going to go live, but I just did it for me because of the excitement that it took. So maybe something that could help is just write some songs just for you and keep them just for you.
That is exactly, like, literally what I've been doing the last couple of weeks. I've just come in and I've made something with no expectation of it being released, just something that gets me out of my chair and like makes me smile, and I want to listen to it on the tube home, sort of thing. So you're totally right about that.
That's awesome. Do you think that's helped?
It's definitely helping. It's really early. I've made like 2 songs like that, and I think I basically just for the rest of the year want to just do that and see if actually anything comes out that I'm like, oh, actually, even though it's different or whatever, I actually would like to put this out, you know?
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. Well, don't go anywhere, right?
I got you. Yeah.
You're not allowed. Okay, so that's interesting. The next question is literally, have you ever thought about quitting?
Well, there you go. I answered 2 in 1.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's the next question. Okay, so there's a couple more here. One we've kind of already answered. It's have any fans been proper weird? We kind of answered that in before. Have you ever written a song that you regret putting out?
Yes. I've not regretted writing the song because you'd start writing songs the same way every time. But releasing it, yes. I'm not going to say which song it was, if that's all right, because
no, of course.
Yeah, but I think I was very young at the time when I put this song out, and I think I was so dependent on the influence of the team around me. Like I really didn't know how to market myself, who I wasn't. I really didn't know who I was as an artist. You know, that's why I was putting out loads of different songs, and this was just like another type of song that was just a different lane that I'd not tried, and we tried it, and I just don't want to play it live. I don't like ever want to listen to it. You know, just I don't know, just don't get good vibes. So yes, but it's not happened much. After that, I kind of learned my lesson, and I was like, I'm going to try not to do that again and be influenced about what I release.
Is that the way that you feel about it, or is that the way that other people feel about it? Like, did it do well? It's just that you don't like it specifically?
No, it did. It did okay. Like it did pretty good. It's not one of like my big songs, but it did pretty well if you would just to look at it from the outset. And I know, in a way, because it was different, there were fans that weren't listening to me before that liked that song because it was maybe more in line with what they listened to, and then they ended up becoming a fan. So I again, that's me going, this is a positive experience, not a negative experience.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, I think if I just look back, I probably just wouldn't have done that one, you know.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Is there, what does this say? What's the most insane rumor you've heard about yourself?
Whoa. I've never been asked that before. I don't know, probably that like I'm just a gazillionaire or something. Like I think once a friend of mine, like for fun, Googled me and then net worth, like, I don't know, like 8 years ago. And it might have said something like, I have 20 million quid or something, which is just like insane. So I quickly put that to bed, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. I there might be a weirder one that I've chosen to forget. I'm not sure.
Okay. That seems to happen a lot, especially with celebrities. It's like someone will just pull a figure out their arse and be like, yeah, it's worth this. And
you know, or they're just like, you know, obviously people can find out pretty easily how much money like 1 million streams gets you. And then they'll just look at how many streams you have and times it by that number. But then they don't know about the deal or like, you know, who paid for what, whatever it is. They just go, oh, clearly there was no costs in the entire your career. What, you know what I mean? Just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Is there any weird interactions you've had with other celebs?
Yes, but I think it was my fault.
Did you do something weird?
I didn't do anything too weird. I think in the very very beginning, when I was talking to labels but they hadn't signed me yet, one of them invited me to go to the Brits, and so I went with my dad because I was like a kid. And then they said, do you want to come to this after party that we're hosting? It was kind of funny, actually, because I didn't know, but like in the music industry, anyone can wear anything to any party. Like, you know, you could essentially go naked and people would think it's expression rather than like weird because it's art, right? But then when we said, yeah, we'll come to the after party, great. And they said, oh, the only thing is like is no jeans. You can't wear jeans. Like that's what apparently was the rule. And my dad and I come down into London for the day, and we were wearing jeans. And by the time the Brits finished, it was like nearly midnight, and we're thinking, where on earth can we buy jeans at like 11:30 at night? So we then took like a taxi. We found this 24/7 massive Sainsbury's on the other side of London that had like maybe like chinos for sixth formers or something in it. So we took a 2-hour like taxi all the way over there, and it was open, but all it was selling was women's lingerie. That was it. So we were like, oh damn, like that's it. Like I was like, we just can't go. And my dad was like, let's just try, like let's go. So anyway, we go to the party. They have no issue with the fact we're wearing jeans. There are people wearing trackies and whatever. Yeah. And when we get in, it's the first time I'm like in a room where there's just like loads of famous people. And I think I just like, it must have been like an ego thing probably, that I wanted to be able to like tell my friends I said something to whoever. Yeah. And I would just, anyone that I saw, I would just like go up to and speak to, even though I had nothing to say. And I learned a lesson that night that was like, you don't go up and speak to someone unless you have something to say. Like, because the conversation is going to be shit. Like it's going to be really awkward. And if you're approaching someone, they're expecting you to have something to say as well. So I just had some pretty awkward interactions that night. Like one of them was with the actress Cara Delevingne. Like I think I just recognized her and I went up and I just had nothing to say. It was terrible. So I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah. I think people get. I mean, it's for me at least for now. Like after doing the podcast for a while, you kind of learn that people that are in the celebrity sphere, they're just normal people, right? It's just like they're just a normal person that's had a job that's slightly different. That's essentially what they are. But for people on the outside looking in, it's like they idolize celebrities. The celebrity is their life. So when they see them, it's like this really weird thing where they don't really know what to say. They don't really know how to act. They end up acting really, really weird. And that all of a sudden the celebrity then goes, oh, this is strange interaction. And that's partially why celebrities hang around other celebrities.
Totally.
Because then, like, they can be normal and not be treated like a weirdo. Who's the most famous person you think you've met?
I met Stevie Wonder. That was pretty crazy.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I was just like leaving this Grammy party, and as the door was closing, this guy like put his hand in, and it was one of his security guards. And then it was a really small lift, so then he got in with Stevie, and I'm like pressed up against the wall, trying not to touch Stevie because he doesn't know I'm there. Yeah. And I'm just like probably breathing really heavily, like right in his ear. And then by the time the lifter got to the bottom floor, like I did have the courage to say something and, say thank you for your music. I love it. But he's obviously a legend.
Yeah. And have you met Lewis Capaldi?
We've met a couple times, yeah. We've not had any like long conversations or anything, but it's always been very nice and yeah. He's always said hi to my wife, which is really nice as well. Because we we listen to his stuff. It's nice. Yeah.
And has there been any like? I remember who was it? It was actually James. He was talking about parties that happen in London that essentially, they're kind of celeb parties where you have to put the phone in the bucket before you go into the. Yeah. Is that, have you experienced that?
No, Matt. I've never had to get rid of my phone. I've never been to one of those. I think James has been in a whole another tier of those kind of things,
Yeah, especially when the Vamps was, well, they're still huge. Don't get me wrong, but like I think did they tour with who was it? Was it McFly? Am I making that up?
You're making that up. I mean, I know at one point they supported Taylor Swift, and I'm sure there was a lot of crazy things then.
Yeah.
But regardless, I mean, they sold arenas, so I'm sure there's some pretty crazy rooms.
Yeah, it's insane. Some of the stories from there was just incredible. But do you find it weird being in that sphere now, where you're considered like people will talk to you and be like, "Oh, by the way, that's JamesTW." Like, do you get any weird interactions because of that?
No, to be honest, it happens like once in a blue moon. Again, back to what we were saying before, my music is like way more like known and famous than my face because of the way people consume it. So I might get noticed like max once a month on the street. Like it's and that's such a small amount that it's just like it's a nice thing to happen on a random day, and it's a compliment. I'm never getting like weird vibes from people because I think you have to be recognized way more for that to be the case, you know?
Yeah. This is totally separate, but are you nervous when you walk around London?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I've not got the speedy on my wrist yet. I mean, maybe I would be then, but you just mean at the safety, or
yeah,
my dad was always very anal about like locking every window at home and making sure every alarm was on. So I think that's just sort of drilled into me, you know, security and safety in general. And my wife probably thinks a lot of it's ridiculous, like how much I'll worry. So I think that might just be me, but I'm sure a lot of people are feeling unsafe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite sad. Just from being in obviously the watch industry, from the watch side of things, there's like, I mean, some of the stories, man, it's horrendous. Like
that's been a big factor of also why I say I'm not going to get one as well. You know, because I want to be able to wear it, and I don't want to fear wearing it, and I feel like I would fear it, especially if it was a Rolex. I mean, I know that's sort of not the only brand that people are going for, but it's the one that is the most common, I guess, that they might go for.
Yeah, man. It's Rolex and Patek they're the ones that people target. There's actually a guy. He was a client actually of ours at Chisholm Hunter, and he bought a pre-owned Rolex off of us. It was an expensive one. It was a Daytona, but it was like platinum, so it was 100 grand, something, or maybe 80 grand, or something like that. A really expensive watch, incredible. It's beautiful. Anyway, he's really private, and he's very conscious of being in London. The guy travels a lot, but he's very conscious about the theft in London. And he walked into a restaurant, so he had like a jacket on, so he had his jacket kind of over his watch. So he walked into the restaurant, and the first thing he did when you're in the restaurant is he took his jacket off because he's in the restaurant now.
Right.
And apparently there was someone sitting in the corner of the room that had ordered a starter and was texting somebody outside the restaurant saying, you know, green jacket, blue jeans, has a Rolex Daytona, blah, 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 you know, this. And then he walked out the shop, machete to the neck, give me the watch. God. And he was like, it was a really nice restaurant in London. This is really scary.
Really scary, man. Really, really scary. And I don't know what can be done about it either, really. I mean, I see videos occasionally of, like, you know, undercover policemen catching some of them, but I don't know, man. It's pretty scary.
It's hard, but also I have like I'm not saying theft in any degree is right, but people are struggling so much now with the cost of living, taxes increasing, salaries going down, London rent. I mean, you live in London, you'll know yourself. They're desperate. And desperate people do desperate things. Sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, and I'm definitely not condoning any theft or violence, but sometimes, you know, desperate people do desperate things because they've got a family to support, you know?
Of course, yeah. I hear you.
Yeah, so it's a difficult one. Anyway, on that cheery note...
Is that the last question, or no?
No, well, I think that from my point of view, what do you think is new or next in your career?
I don't want to think about it as like career. I think that's where I've been going wrong. I think I'm just thinking what's next in my creativity and musicality. And I think it is probably, I'm actually playing some shows. I'm going on tour to do some like really nice, intimate sort of candlelit church kind of shows. And that's in October and November, which I am looking forward to those because it's just me performing on stage. I haven't done that in a very long time, and it's sort of returning back to the start, which is kind of the theme clearly here of what I'm trying to do with my music. And after that and before that, I'm just gonna come here 9 to 5 it, man, and just make stuff that I love and see if I want to share any of it. That's my plan.
Amazing, man. Amazing. Well, yeah, you were meant to come to Glasgow, weren't you?
Yes, yeah, that show got pulled. I'm gutted about it, but maybe next time.
Well, let me know if you're up my way or in... I think I'm seeing James in Edinburgh next month. Oh, are you coming to see Amble
I don't think so. No.
Did,
No.
did James text you about that or no?
He didn't text me, no.
No, he didn't text you. Okay. I think we're going to see Amble in the start of, start of November, I'm going to say.
Cool.
So if you're around, definitely hop on. Like, we've actually just bought tickets, and we're just it's James and his wife, and then me and my girlfriend are coming as well.
That's
so
lovely,
definitely
man.
come along.
That's really lovely.
Yeah, you should try and come along.
I don't know if start of November, one of the shows is, I think. So I'll have to check if I'm moving around. But it might not be. I need to check.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I'll text you after it anyway. Amble, or have you listened to their music?
No, I actually haven't. I clearly need to if you guys are going.
Let me send you a couple of tracks. So
Cool.
we were talking earlier about how songs relate to specific occasions, like London, or not London, sorry, Iceland with James. We just listened to Amble on repeat, and it was like whenever I think of Iceland now, it's always Amble.
That's
So
really
yeah,
nice.
I'll send you some tracks after this, but they're absolutely incredible, man. Like seriously
Sick.
incredible,
I'm down to listen.
amazing. Where can people find you?
You can find me Instagram, TikTok, all the socials, JamesTW. If you just search that, I'm sure I'll come up.
Amazing. And what I'll do is I'll link for anyone listening. I'll put it in the description as well, so that they can get it easy. But listen, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the time, and I think we've been chatting for 2 and a bit hours as well. So you'll probably be bored of me, but thank you so much.
No, dude, I really appreciate it too. To anyone listening, this was my first podcast ever. So if I waffled, was incredibly inarticulate, I'm sorry, but thanks for getting this far.